Right. So the project I've got planned for this month is sort of looking towards abstracting. So it could be like simplifying things or just changing the colours, or you could go completely abstract if you want to go completely abstract. Just sort the chair out.
I went all around everywhere, and then thought, well, I'll chance it. I'm at the end here.
Can I even have space for you?
So would you?
Yeah, so it could be anything that's just slightly moving away from naturalistic colours, naturalistic drawing, however way you want to take it. So these are, and the other thing you could include is collage. So these are just colour, actually flat colour collage. These I did years and years ago, probably about 20 or 30 years ago, and they're all like done as designs for stage backdrops for festivals. So I used to work in a day centre, so that's on Christmas.
Try to sit here. You did these for?
Yeah, I did these about 25 or so years ago. So
No.
before I started doing this kind of adult teaching, I worked in day centres for adults with physical disabilities and mental health problems. And I worked in Newham, and the centre that I worked in, we had all sorts of different cultures in there, so we used to celebrate all the festivals. So these were designed as stage backdrops, and we got the community service volunteers to come and paint them on a big scale. So I basically just got them to paint bits of paper, the colours they had, and then I cut them all up and made collages out of them. So it's an idea if you wanted to have a go at collage. Unfortunately, I've got rid of most of my collage materials, which is a bit silly of me because I forgot that we were doing this year. But you could do something similar. You could just cut, bits of paper, paint the many colours you've got, and then cut and paste. Yeah.
Well, I made this bit, but what is the college material that you're using?
All of it. These ones are just paper. So it's just coloured paper, literally white paper. It's mostly white paper that's been painted with emulsion paint, and then we cut and paste.
Okay.
So that's one way you could do collage. So I thought I'd just show a few different ways that you could do collage. The nice thing about this, though, is obviously when you're doing the painting, you draw something and then you fill it in with colour. With these, you're actually physically cutting the shapes, and you can move them around and experiment with different compositions, different combinations, things like that. So that's the enjoyable part. Also, the way you cut with a scissors or knife, you get a different sort of quality to what you would just drawing. So that's a few examples of that. This was one of another one that's a bit more abstract, but this was actually built based on still life objects. So I think that's my scarf and a little vase I had, some sort of head shape roughly, and a teacup and a sculpture. So again, similar sort of thing, but using some printed materials and maps and bits of magazines, bits of textured cardboard. So it's the sort of thing that you could, I used to collect and don't anymore. Did have a good collection of. But if you wanted to go along these lines, it's something you could create. Yep.
If you wanted to use some material on there, some actual material.
Yes.
Would you just glue it on?
Yeah, you could just glue it on. Yeah, and I've got some PVA glue here, so if anybody wanted to have a go, I've got loads of PVA. So that's another type of collage. These are more kind of painted. So this one isn't collage. So at one point I did a Jackson Pollock workshop for a theatre up in London. They had a play about Jackson Pollock and they wanted a Jackson Pollock workshop to go alongside. So I did a bit of experimenting and found some bottles of poster paint and liquid acrylic, and we had quite a good time with that. So that's another type of painting. These are various kind of mixtures of paint and collage. So these are mostly acrylic paints, which is quite a sticky kind of paint anyway. I think I've used PVA to stick some things down. So there's bits of paper there in that one. These two, this one has got, this is almost like a sort of slightly abstracted coastal scene. I've got tissue paper here all kind of crumpled up and stuck on. Bit of newsprint, some bits of packaging, sort of cardboard, little bits of silver foil. And a similar sort of thing with this one. This is more paint and a little bit of paint effect using acrylic and then glue and then more acrylic. And you get this sort of broken paint effect and silver foil, things like that. So it's a different way that, if you wanted to experiment, if you wanted to go a little bit, away from naturalism, you could do that. This one, I think we stuck things like sand and various bits of netting out, sort of like onions and the orange wrapping, things like that. So to create different textures. So it can be quite good fun. Bits of string on that one. I have got, one of my students did give me a little collection of collage materials, as I've lost all mine, I've got rid of mine. So we have got some, if some of you want to have a go, feel free to use some of those. The other thing so that's kind of as far as I got for this week. And then obviously the other option is we've got the great outdoors, got a lovely day, go and do some more sketching, which we can do either instead of or alongside this as a project. One thing I thought I'd set up next week is years ago, my students in my Tuesday class, we had to go to this sort of exercise, which is really looking at something a little bit more like cubism, which was Picasso and Braque. That's a sort of version of cubism. I don't know if we've got any more in here. Yeah, that's more sort of cubism, that sort of look. So the idea there is that rather than draw from one particular viewpoint, you get this sort of slightly fragmented appearance to the paintings. And it could be looking at, maybe this is looking at the side that bit and then a bit looking at the front, looking at all sorts of different angles. So that's Picasso, and I think artists like David Hockney are influenced by Picasso amongst other people. I did have a page marked here. That one. So yeah, I was thinking the images like that, they almost look like he's looking down that way, and then he's looking this way, and then he's looking that way, and looking about all sorts of different angles. The roof looks like it's looked at all different angles. So rather than drawing from a one point perspective view that we've looked at in the past, this is more kind of making it up and just improvising as you go. So this exercise, the idea is to set up a still life, which I thought if anybody wanted to do this, we could have a go at this even next week or next week leading into the week after if needs be. And you have a number of objects on a table, and then you start maybe on one side of the table, and we can have a little group if people wanted to take part in this. And you perhaps draw from one direction, have a couple of objects in, and then go to another direction, and then draw again. And what happens is certain bits will get superimposed on top of each other. Like it might have like that head shape. I think it's like a mask is probably that. Seen from the side, seen from the front. The stars is here and things like that. And then what happens is you come up with a line drawing, and then you basically just put colour or tone just in a way that you feel works. So it's more of a kind of balancing shapes and forms up, just to try and make an interesting composition. So that's an exercise. If you wanted to have a go at that, we could have a go at that next week. Or I'm certainly have it. There's some in the morning group who want to have a go next week. So I'll bring a couple of objects in, but if you are interested in having a go at that, we could, maybe bring something in or add something in that you've got with you to that. So it's like a whole range of possibilities. So that's kind of what I've got planned for May. But the other thing was I thought I will also, as the month progresses, do a little bit more on working outdoors. I'm thinking we could have, there'll be probably a day that isn't a Thursday. If anybody wanted to join this, we could perhaps do maybe a Monday or a Friday. And there might be one Wednesday I could do it. Just go out and do some drawing, painting, but a location away from here. So obviously while we're here, we can make use of what we've got here. but we could go somewhere else, either as near, you know, one of the other parks, or we could go further afield, go driving for a bit and find somewhere. So whatever you would want to do. So what I'll do is I'll put some dates down in the next email, and then work something out, and then we'll see what is the best day. But I was thinking maybe try and organise one per month, perhaps like May, June, and early July. Try and get at least one date down, and then we could do a bit of plein air painting somewhere. And I'll do a little bit of preparation before we do that, or alongside that.
You think of painting, not just drawing, making
We
things?
could do both. We could have a painting one and a drawing one, yeah. Or you can decide which you prefer to do, what you'd like to do, and I can do some preparation for both, and then people can choose what they'd like to do. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Any-
Lots of options.
Any questions? Would some of you like to work outdoors today? I know Izzy's been sketching all morning. So maybe perhaps go and do some more sketching outdoors. I just did we just did a bit over lunch, didn't we?
We did.
So I just did a little bit of sketch of people on the beach.
Loads of people out on the beach having ice
Lots
creams.
of people not posing, they're slightly moving around. But
I didn't see them.
plus there's the boats and the normal stuff if anybody would like to.
Yeah, always going for
Yes,
outdoors.
we'll be careful not to accidentally get an ice cream or fish and chips.
Yeah, there's a very tempting ice cream around there.
One thing, there's plenty of people around.
There is.
Yeah.